Adunni Okafor stood in the small mirror of their one-bedroom flat in Ajigunle, adjusting her wrapper around her full figure. At 32, she had gained considerable weight after bearing 3 children and years of eating gari and beans while her husband Chaik built his business empire. From their cramped balcony, she could see the lagoon and hear the sound of Danfo buses honking in the early morning traffic. This was far from the life Chaik had promised her when they married 8 years ago. "Adunni, where is my white shirt?" Chaik's voice boomed from their bedroom. He was preparing for another important meeting in Victoria Island, where his import business had its headquarters. Chaik Okafor was now worth over 2 billion naira. His company, Chicorp Industries, imported electronics and textiles from China and sold them across West Africa. He owned a mansion in Lekki, several luxury cars, and had just acquired a private jet. Yet his wife and children still lived in the same Ajigunle flat where they had started their marriage. "It's hanging in the wardrobe, my husband," Adunni replied softly, using the respectful tone her mother had taught her. Chaik emerged from the bedroom, looking dapper in his tailored suit. He had transformed from the struggling University of Lagos graduate she had married into a confident businessman. But somewhere along the way his heart had grown cold. "Look at yourself," he said with disgust, eyeing her traditional wrapper and head tie. "You look like a market woman. How can I take you anywhere looking like that?" Their 3 children, Emeka 10, Kemi 8, and little Chioma 5, sat quietly at the small table, eating their breakfast of bread and tea. They had learned not to speak when their father was in one of his moods. "But Chaik, this is the same style I have always worn." "The same style your mother wears?" Adunni protested gently. "My mother is an old village woman. You are supposed to be the wife of a billionaire. Yet you look like an Agbaro's wife." The insult stung. Adunni remembered when Chaik used to tell her she was the most beautiful woman in Lagos, that her full figure reminded him of the goddesses in Yoruba folklore. Adunni's mind drifted back to their courtship days at the University of Lagos. Chaik was studying business administration while she pursued a degree in English literature. He was brilliant but poor, the son of a palm wine tapper from Enugu. Adunni came from a middle-class Yoruba family in Ibadan. Her father, Chief Adebayo Fashola, was a successful textile merchant who could trace his lineage back to the Oyo Empire. Despite her family's initial reservations about Chaik's Igbo background and humble origins, Adunni had chosen love over tribal prejudice. "Adunni, your father will never approve of me," Chaik had said during one of their evening walks around the campus lagoon. "My father will learn to love you as I do," she had replied confidently. "Besides, we are Nigerians first, not Yoruba or Igbo." Chaik had worked 3 jobs to pay his school fees while Adunni tutored him in English and helped him write business proposals. When he graduated with first-class honors, she was there cheering loudest in the crowd. Their wedding in 2015 was modest but joyful. Chief Fashola had eventually given his blessing, impressed by Chaik's determination and intelligence. Adunni wore her grandmother's coral beads and a beautiful aso oak that had been in the family for generations. "I will make you proud," Chaik had whispered to her during their traditional ceremony. "One day, I will give you everything your father's money couldn't buy." Chaik's business began with a small shop in Alaba Market, selling phone accessories. Adunni worked alongside him, keeping the books and managing customers while pregnant with Emeka. They lived on bread and akara, saving every kobo for inventory. When Emeka was born, they celebrated with a small naming ceremony in their one-room apartment. Chief Fashola came from Ibadan with traditional gifts, and Chaik's mother, Mama Ngozi, traveled from Enugu with her famous jollof rice. "This child will bring us good fortune," Mama Ngozi had declared, holding baby Emeka. "See how he grips the naira notes so tightly." She was right. Within 2 years, Chaik had expanded to 3 shops. By the time Kemi was born, he owned a small warehouse. When little Chioma arrived, he was importing containers directly from China. But success changed Chaik. The humble boy who used to thank Adunni for every meal became demanding and critical. He started traveling frequently to China, Dubai, and other African countries. He joined exclusive clubs in Victoria Island and began associating with Lagos's elite. "You need to lose weight," he told Adunni one day after returning from a business trip to South Africa. "The other wives at the polo club look like models. You look like a village woman who eats too much pounded yam." Adunni was hurt but tried to understand. Perhaps the pressure of success was affecting him. She began attending a gym in Surulere and tried to change her traditional style of dress. The breaking point came during Chief Adebayo's 70th birthday celebration in Ibadan. The entire Fashola family had gathered at their ancestral home, a beautiful compound with courtyards and traditional architecture. Chaik arrived late, claiming business had detained him in Lagos. He was dressed in an expensive agbada made from Swiss lace, with a matching fila. But his attitude was cold and dismissive. During the ceremony, as family members took turns praising Chief Fashola, Chaik's phone rang constantly. He answered it each time, speaking loudly about business deals while elders were speaking. "Chaik, please," Adani whispered. "This is disrespectful to my father." "Your father should understand that business doesn't wait for birthday parties," he replied curtly. The final humiliation came during the photo session. As the photographer arranged the family, Chief Fashola called for Adani and Chaik to stand with him. "Where is my daughter and her husband?" the old man asked proudly. Chaik looked at Adani with embarrassment. She was wearing a beautiful Ankara dress that she had sewn herself, with a matching Geli head wrap. By traditional standards, she looked elegant and dignified. "Actually, Baba," Chaik said using the respectful term for elder, "I think Adani should stand in the back. She doesn't photograph well these days." The compound fell silent. This was more than an insult to Adani, it was a public humiliation in front of her extended family. Her aunties gasped, her cousins whispered, and Chief Fashola's face darkened with anger. "Young man," the old chief said slowly, his voice carrying the authority of age and wisdom, "in Yoruba culture, a man who shames his wife publicly shames himself privately." Unknown to Adani, Chaik had been having an affair with Obiageli Uzoma, a slim, sophisticated Igbo woman who owned a fashion boutique in Victoria Island. Obiageli was everything Chaik thought he wanted: elegant, slim, well-traveled, and from a wealthy family. They had met at a business networking event at the Lagos Yacht Club. Obiageli was dressed in an imported Italian dress that cost more than most Nigerians earned in a year. She spoke with a slight American accent from her years studying at Howard University. "You're Chaik Okafor, aren't you?" She had approached him at the bar. "I've heard about your success story. Very impressive for someone from humble beginnings." The slight condescension in her voice should have offended him, but instead, it intrigued him. Here was a woman from the class he aspired to join. Their affair began as business consultations, but quickly became romantic. Chaik rented an apartment in Banana Island where they would meet. He bought Obiageli expensive gifts, a Range Rover, jewelry from Dubai, and designer clothes. "When are you going to leave that village, woman?" Obiageli asked one afternoon as they lay in the luxury apartment. "You're a billionaire now. You deserve a wife who matches your status." "Soon," Chaik replied, though something in his heart resisted. "I just need to arrange things properly." Adani discovered the affair by accident. She had gone to Chaik's office in Victoria Island to deliver his forgotten blood pressure medication. His secretary was at lunch, so she walked directly to his private office. Through the slightly open door, she heard Chaik on the phone with someone who was clearly not a business partner. "No, baby, I can't see you tonight. I have to attend my daughter's school play," he was saying. "Yes, I know it's boring, but I have to maintain appearances until the divorce is finalized." Adani's heart stopped. "Divorce? Don't worry, Obiageli. My lawyer says because she didn't contribute financially to the business, she'll only get the minimum settlement required by law. Maybe 5 million naira at most." Adani backed away from the door, her hands shaking. 5 million naira? After 8 years of marriage, 3 children, and helping build his empire from nothing? She returned home in a daze, her mind reeling with betrayal and fear. That evening, as she watched Chaik applaud politely at Chioma's school play, she saw him differently. The man she had loved and supported had become a stranger. That night, after the children were asleep, Adani called her sister Folake, who lived in Abuja and worked as a lawyer. "Sister, I need legal advice," she whispered into the phone. After hearing the story, Folake was furious. "Adani, you have rights. You helped build that business from the beginning. In Nigeria, marriage is a partnership, not a master-servant relationship. But I have no money of my own, no job. How can I fight him?" "You have something more valuable than money, sister. You have truth on your side and you have the respect of good people. Remember what our grandmother used to say, the patient dog eats the fattest bone." The next day, Adani made a decision that would change everything. She called her father. "Baba, I need to come home to Ibadan. I need time to think." Chief Fashola heard the pain in his daughter's voice. "Come home, my daughter. Your room is still waiting for you." In her father's compound in Ibadan, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of her childhood, Adani began to heal and plan. Chief Fashola called a family meeting with his brothers, sisters, and the most respected elders in their community. "My daughter has been treated with disrespect by her husband," he announced. But we will not respond with emotion. We will respond with wisdom and strategy. Her uncle, Professor Adebayo Fashola, who taught law at the University of Ibadan, offered to represent her. Child, your husband may have forgotten where he came from, but we will remind him of the consequences of dishonoring a daughter of the Fashola family. Her aunt, Mrs. Folashade Ogundipe, who owned a chain of successful bakeries across southwest Nigeria, had a different idea. Adani, you are educated and intelligent. Why don't you start your own business? Show him that you can succeed without his money. But aunt, I have no capital, no experience in business. You have something better than capital, my child. You have the support of your family and the blessing of your ancestors. We will provide the capital. You provide the determination. While staying in Ibadan, Adani rediscovered her passion for writing. As a university student, she had won several literary competitions, but marriage and motherhood had pushed her dreams aside. She began writing a novel about a woman's journey from village life to city success, incorporating the rich traditions of Yoruba culture with the challenges of modern Nigeria. She wrote in both English and Yoruba, creating a story that resonated with Nigerian women across all educational levels. Professor Fashola read her manuscript and was amazed. Adani, this is exceptional. You have captured the essence of the Nigerian woman's experience. He introduced her to his contacts in the publishing world. Within 3 months, her novel, The Silent Strength, was accepted by a major Nigerian publisher. But more importantly, it was picked up by an international publisher who saw its potential for the global market. Meanwhile, Aunt Folashade helped Adani establish a small textile business in Ibadan, using traditional attire techniques that had been in their family for generations. The business, Fashola Heritage Textiles, combined traditional Nigerian patterns with modern designs. When Chike filed for divorce, he expected Adani to be helpless and desperate. Instead, he received a response from Professor Fashola's law firm that shocked him. Not only was Adani countersuing for her fair share of the business, but she was also demanding custody of the children and seeking damages for emotional distress and infidelity. This is impossible, Chike raged to his lawyer. She has no money for such legal representation. His lawyer, a sharp Yoruba man named Barrister Adelik, shook his head. Mr. Okafor, you underestimated your wife's family connections. Chief Fashola is not just a wealthy trader. His family has been influential in Yoruba land for centuries. Professor Fashola is one of Nigeria's most respected legal minds. The legal battle revealed facts that embarrassed Chike publicly. Court documents showed that Adani had contributed significantly to the business's early success, not just through labor but through financial contributions from her family and her own teaching salary. More damaging was the revelation of his affair with Obiageli and the apartment he had rented for her. In Lagos's gossip circles, the story became a cautionary tale about successful men who forget their origins. While the legal battle raged, Adani's novel became a phenomenon. The Silent Strength topped bestseller lists across Africa and gained international recognition. It was translated into French, Portuguese, and Swahili, reaching African communities worldwide. The book's success brought Adani more than money. It brought respect and recognition as an intellectual and artist. She was invited to speak at the University of Lagos, the same institution where she and Chike had met. Standing before an audience of students and faculty, Adani spoke about the importance of maintaining one's identity while pursuing success. My brothers and sisters, she said in fluent Yoruba before switching to English, success without character is like a house built on sand. It may look impressive, but it will not withstand the storms of life. In the audience, some of Chike's business associates shifted uncomfortably. Word of his behavior had spread through Lagos's tight-knit business community, and many were reconsidering their relationships with him. The most painful aspect of the divorce was its effect on the children. Emeka, now 11, had become withdrawn and angry. Kemi, 9, asked her mother constantly why daddy didn't live with them anymore. Little Chioma, only 6, didn't fully understand but sensed the tension. During one of Chike's scheduled visits to Ibadan, Emeka confronted his father. Daddy, why did you say those bad things about Mama? The boy asked with the directness of childhood. Chike was taken aback. Son, adults have disagreements. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But Grandpa Chief says that a man who doesn't respect his wife doesn't respect himself. Are you not respecting yourself, Daddy? The wisdom of a child, speaking the words of his grandfather, hit Chike harder than any legal document could. Kemi, meanwhile, had found comfort in her mother's strength. Mama, will you teach me to write stories like you? She asked one evening. Of course, my daughter. But first, let me teach you something more important. Let me teach you to value yourself so no one can ever make you feel small. As Chaik's reputation suffered and legal fees mounted, Obiageli began to distance herself from him. The woman who had seemed so supportive when he was riding high now found excuses to avoid him. "Chaik, this whole situation is becoming too messy," she said during one of their last meetings. "People are starting to talk and it's affecting my business." "But I thought you loved me," Chaik said, finally hearing how pathetic he sounded. "I loved the successful businessman, not this scandal. Maybe you should try to work things out with your wife. At least she stood by you when you had nothing." The irony was crushing. The woman for whom he had destroyed his marriage was abandoning him now that he faced difficulties. In Lagos's Igbo community, Chaik's mother, Mama Ngozi, faced embarrassment and shame. Her women's group, the Imwata, Daughters of the Community, called a meeting to address her son's behavior. "Mama Ngozi," said the group's leader, "your son has brought shame not just to his wife, but to our entire community. In Igbo culture, we respect women as the mothers of our nation. How can he treat the mother of his children this way?" The old woman wept. "I raised him better than this. Success has poisoned his heart." "Then help us heal it," another elder suggested. "Speak to him as only a mother can." Meanwhile, in Yoruba land, Chief Fashola's standing had actually increased. Other chiefs and community leaders praised him for how he had handled his daughter's situation with dignity and wisdom rather than anger and revenge. "Fashola has shown us the difference between reacting and responding," commented the Oba of a neighboring town. "He protected his daughter's honor without losing his own dignity." 6 months into the divorce proceedings, Chaik received devastating news. Several of his major clients had canceled their contracts, citing concerns about his character and reliability. His business, which had seemed unshakable, began to crumble. Alone in his Lekki mansion, surrounded by expensive possessions but empty of love, Chaik finally understood what he had lost. He called his mother in Enugu. "Mama, I think I have made a terrible mistake," he said, his voice breaking. "My son," Mama Ngozi replied, "the first step to correcting a mistake is admitting it exists. But admission without action is worthless. What should I do?" "Humble yourself and make amends. Not because you want your wife back, that decision is hers to make, but because your children are watching. What kind of man do you want them to remember?" That night, Chaik made a decision. He called Professor Fashola and requested a meeting. The meeting took place at Chief Fashola's compound in Ibadan, under the ancient Irako tree where family decisions had been made for generations. Chaik came dressed not in his expensive suits but in a simple white shirt and dark trousers, carrying a kola nut as tradition required. "Chief Fashola," he began, following proper protocol, "I have come to acknowledge my wrongdoing and to ask for your guidance." The old chief studied him carefully. "Young man, acknowledgement is the beginning of wisdom. But actions speak louder than words. What actions do you propose?" Chaik had prepared for this question. "I want to withdraw the divorce case and publicly apologize for my behavior. I want to ensure that Adunni receives her fair share of everything we built together, whether she chooses to reconcile with me or not." "And what about the woman you took as a mistress?" "That relationship has ended, sir. I see now that it was built on superficiality and greed, not on love or respect." Chief Fashola nodded slowly. "You are beginning to show wisdom, but wisdom without consistent action is like rain that falls once. It may help for a moment, but it cannot sustain growth." Chaik's public apology made headlines across Nigerian media. In a carefully worded statement published in major newspapers and broadcast on television, he accepted full responsibility for his actions. "I allowed success to corrupt my values and pride to blind me to the worth of the woman who stood by me from the beginning," he stated. "I publicly disrespected my wife, the mother of my children, and I failed to honor the traditions that shaped me. I ask for forgiveness from my family, my community, and all those who have been disappointed by my behavior." The statement was accompanied by concrete actions. Chaik transferred 50% of his business assets to Adunni, established education funds for their children, and donated substantial amounts to women's organizations across Nigeria. Adunni watched Chaik's transformation with cautious hope. Their children had begun to speak more positively about their father, reporting that he listened more and criticized less during their visits. "Mama," Emeka said one day, "Daddy asked me to teach him how to cook jollof rice like you do. He said he wants to learn to take care of himself properly." Kemi added, "And he's been reading my school essays and helping me with my English homework. He never did that before." Even little Chioma noticed the change. "Daddy hugged me for a long time yesterday and said he was sorry for making me sad." But Adunni remained cautious. Her aunt Folishade advised her, "Child, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, but trust must be earned over time." Over the following months, Chaik proved his sincerity through consistent actions. He attended every school event, parent-teacher conference and family gathering. He learned to cook traditional Nigerian dishes and helped with household tasks during his visits. More importantly, he began therapy to address the insecurities and pride that had driven his behavior. His therapist, Dr. Amaka Okonkwo, helped him understand how success without emotional intelligence had nearly destroyed his life. "You confused external validation with internal worth," she explained. "You thought that because you had money you deserved a different kind of respect. But respect based on wealth alone is shallow and temporary." Chaik also began working with young entrepreneurs, sharing his story as a cautionary tale about the importance of character alongside success. Meanwhile, Adani's success continued to grow. Her second book, Daughters of the Dawn, explored the experiences of modern Nigerian women balancing tradition and progress. It became an even bigger success than her first novel. She established the Fashola Foundation, which provided scholarships for young women from disadvantaged backgrounds and supported women's businesses across Nigeria. Her textile company had expanded to 3 states and employed over 50 women. At a book launch in Lagos, attended by Nigeria's cultural elite, Adani spoke about the importance of economic independence for women. "My sisters," she said, addressing the mixed crowd of admirers, "we must love ourselves enough to demand respect, and we must be strong enough to walk away from situations that diminish us. But we must also be wise enough to forgive when forgiveness serves our healing." In the audience, Chaik watched his estranged wife with admiration and regret. She had become everything he had claimed to want: successful, respected, confident. But she had done it by embracing rather than abandoning her authentic self. The final push toward reconciliation came from an unexpected source: their children. Emeka, now 13 and wise beyond his years, spoke to his parents during a family meeting. "Mama, Daddy, we love you both, but we're tired of living in 2 worlds, he said with remarkable maturity. "Daddy has changed. We can see it. But Mama, you've become strong enough to set boundaries. Can't you be together and both be strong?" Kemi, now 11, added, "In my English class, we learned that the best stories are about people who make mistakes but learn from them and become better." Little Chioma, now 8, was more direct. "I just want us to be a family again, but the good kind of family where nobody makes anybody cry." After 18 months of separation and careful reconciliation, Adani and Chaik decided to remarry in a ceremony that celebrated both their growth and their commitment to doing better. The wedding was held at Chief Fashola's compound in Ibadan, under the same Irako tree where Chaik had sought forgiveness. This time it was not about poverty overcoming pride, but about 2 successful individuals choosing to build something together as equals. Chaik wore a traditional agbada made by Adani's textile company, while she wore a stunning aso oak that told the story of their journey through intricate embroidery. Their children served as the wedding party, symbolizing their central role in the family's healing. "Today," said Chief Fashola during the ceremony, "we witness not just a remarriage but a rebirth. These 2 people have learned that true partnership requires respect, humility, and the wisdom to grow together." The second phase of Adani and Chaik's marriage was built on different foundations than the first. They maintained separate business interests while supporting each other's success. Adani kept her maiden name professionally and insisted on joint decision-making in all family matters. Their home was no longer in Ajigunle but in a beautiful house in Ibadan that honored traditional Yoruba architecture while incorporating modern conveniences. They also maintained an apartment in Lagos for business purposes. Chaik learned to celebrate Adani's success genuinely, attending her book launches and wearing clothes from her textile line with pride. "My wife is not just beautiful," he would tell people, "she is brilliant, talented, and stronger than I ever gave her credit for." Adani in turn supported Chaik's efforts to rebuild his business with integrity. She helped him develop corporate social responsibility programs and insisted that their companies prioritize fair wages and good working conditions. Both families watched the couple's transformation with joy and relief. Mama Ngozi traveled from Enugu to spend a month with them, teaching Adani traditional Igbo recipes and learning Yoruba customs in return. "I was wrong to worry about tribal differences," the old woman admitted to Chief Fashola. "Good character transcends tribal boundaries." Chief Fashola, now 75 but still strong, spent evenings with his grandchildren, teaching them proverbs and stories that would guide them through life. "Remember," he would tell them, "wealth without character is like a tree without roots. It may grow tall quickly, but it will fall at the first strong wind." The couple's story became a powerful example in their communities. Young men learned about the importance of treating their wives with respect regardless of their own success level. Young women learned about the importance of maintaining their independence and self-worth within marriage. At universities across Nigeria, Adunni was invited to speak about women's empowerment and entrepreneurship. Her message was always the same: empower yourself not to leave good relationships, but to ensure you're never trapped in bad ones. Chaik spoke to men's groups about emotional intelligence and humility. Success is not a license to disrespect others, he would say. Real success makes you more grateful, not more arrogant. The Okafor family compound in Ibadan had become a gathering place for extended family and community members. Adunni's foundation had grown into one of Nigeria's most respected women's organizations, while her publishing house was launching young African authors across the continent. Chaik's business had recovered and grown, but more importantly, it was known for its ethical practices and community involvement. Their children, Emeka, 18, Kemi, 16, and Chioma, 13, were academically successful and socially conscious young people who volunteered regularly with their parents' organizations. At Emeka's university send-off party, he had been accepted to study international relations at the University of Lagos. The extended family gathered to celebrate. As Chief Fashola gave the blessing, he looked at Adunni and Chaik with satisfaction. "My children," the old man said, "you have shown us that the greatest wealth is not in our bank accounts but in our character. The greatest success is not in what we accumulate but in how we treat those we love." Adunni, now 40 and more beautiful than ever with confidence and inner peace, held Chaik's hand as they watched their son receive the family's blessing for his future. "Are you happy?" Chaik whispered to her. "I am complete," she replied. "Not because I have everything I want, but because I know who I am and what I'm worth." Chaik squeezed her hand, understanding finally that he had never needed to change her. He had needed to change himself to become worthy of the woman she had always been. As the celebration continued into the evening, with traditional drums beating and 3 generations of family dancing together, the story of Adunni and Chaik became another chapter in the long history of the Fashola and Okafor families, a story of love tested, broken, and rebuilt stronger than before. The greatest lesson of all was simple. True wealth lies not in what you can buy, but in the relationships you nurture, the character you build, and the legacy you leave for those who come after you. In the end, Adunni had gained far more than she had ever lost, and Chaik had learned that the greatest fortune is a wife who chooses to stay not because she has no choice, but because she knows her worth and still chooses love.